So, congratulations, Jason. How do you feel in those football parlance? Winning the Grocer Cup. How do you feel?
Well, absolutely delighted, as you might expect, to receive this award. Very happy, and particularly happy on behalf of my hundreds of thousands of colleagues that have worked very hard to make sure that we're in the right place to be able to win the award. So, very happy and delighted to receive it on their behalf.
I want to cast you back to 2019-20 because it was an important year for Tesco, some key milestones. What was the most important things you did, the most notable achievements of that time? I know it feels like a long time ago now, but what was most important?
Yeah, you're right. It does feel like a long time ago. It's been quite a year so far, hasn't it? So casting your mind back to that time has been was quite an interesting thing to do, actually, because you kind of live and breathe the situation we're in at the moment. Look, I think it was really the final year of our turnaround. So it was the culmination of all the work we'd done to turn around Tesco, focusing very much on the customer at the heart of it, but also making sure we're in the right place to be able to move to the next phase of our plan. Really, we did I think the key success for us last year was the focus that we had on the customer, the shopping trip, the basics, making sure we were able to really deliver on that. And we were very happy to win both the sort of Store of the Week award last year and also the Availability Award, which I think was great testament to that.
And in fact, this year as well, following on from that, of course. With the benefit of hindsight, were there any actions you took last year that you think have held you in particularly good stead for 2020 and COVID?
Well, I think a couple of things. One of which was that we did say we wanted to increase the capacity of our online business. We'd spent the last sort of 4 or 5 years focusing on turning it into a more efficient operation and one that could contribute financially for us. And we just said that we were ready to expand online again. And we also wanted to focus on differentiating our offer through our loyalty scheme, through Club Card. And we launched Club Card Plus at the back end of 2019. And I think the final thing we wanted to do was go again on value. We'd done a lot of work around exclusive at Tesco brands and farm brands at Tesco and price investment. So we wanted to go again on those things. And I think all of those things played out well for us in terms of getting ready for what happened in March.
We're obviously back in this lockdown situation. Just casting your mind back, though, to the early part of 2020, when did you first realise there was a problem, and what did you do about it?
Well, I think, it's back end of February when we really started to see this thing emerging, and sort of early part of March, it really took off. I think Mother's Day 2020, the 22nd of March, was a day I'll never forget. That was the day that the lockdown had launched. We put in place a priority hour for NHS workers, and we had Mother's Day, and it was a very difficult day for most of my colleagues in most of the stores in which we operated, with the volume of customers that were coming to us and the challenges that it presented. But really, the sort of it kicked off a couple of weeks before then. At first, we were struggling to keep up with what was happening. It wasn't until at the sort of end of the first week of lockdown, when we were out in shops with our colleagues, we realised we needed to start there and not start in the centre, listening to and hearing from our colleagues what was unfurling in front of them in the stores with customers, and taking the action that we felt necessary based on their feedback to support them to be able to serve our shoppers as best they can. I think that was a real breakthrough moment for us. But those first few days and weeks were extremely challenging. extremely difficult. And it was very much about making sure that we could support our colleagues in the front line, doing what they do best.
The industry's response has been amazing. It's not just Tesco, of course. Is there anything that you think Tesco has done particularly well?
I think I totally agree with you, Adam. I think the whole industry has stepped up amazingly well in these very difficult times, and as a result, the public perceive us as an industry differently, and I hope that the government do too, in terms of the role that we play. And that's not just the supermarkets; it's the suppliers and producers, the farmers, the distribution companies, everybody involved in the food supply chain and other essential items supply chain have done an amazing job through COVID pandemic in very difficult circumstances. I think we did our bit too. I think Tesco is at its best when it's up against it, when there is a crisis, and I think our colleagues stepped forward in an amazing way right from day one, really stepped up to take responsibility to do the things that they felt were the right things to do. We obviously had a great platform to be able to do that. The 3,671 stores that we have, the online operation that we already had, and our ability to be able to scale up and adapt with our sort of platforms has worked really well for us. There's no doubt about it. But at the heart of it was our colleagues, the way that they lived our values and got on with it in a way that I could have only have hoped for. It was amazing.
How is Tesco now adapting, given the latest lockdowns and restrictions? Are you better prepared than last time? Are you fully prepared?
We're better prepared than last time. I guess we're, to use another sort of sporting parlance, we're pretty much match fit around keeping alert, adapting what we do, focus on trying to do everything that we can do. So no doubt we're better than we were, but we are still in territory that's uncharted. It's still unfolding in front of us, and staying alert and adapting to what needs to be done in front of you is still something that we're learning about. Going into lockdown and the restrictions last time, we were going into the summer months. It was a relatively quiet time of year. Obviously, at the moment, we're heading into Christmas. We still have a Brexit happening at the end of the year as well. So there's definitely some new things that we need to focus on going into this lockdown. But I'd say we're definitely better prepared than we were back in March. There's no doubt about that. And we're working through all of those now.
You mentioned about Brexit. How much is that in your thoughts right now? Because, of course, with the potential no deal and so forth, that would have ramifications for availability at a difficult time for us all.
Yeah, we're planning for Brexit as well. We have a small team that are pretty much dedicated to it, who are focused on working with the government and working with our operational teams to make sure we're as prepared as we can be without distracting people from serving customers during a lockdown period into COVID and as we go into Christmas as well. So, yeah, it's very much a priority for us. And we're doing everything we can to make sure that we can protect availability and continue to serve customers well and look after our colleagues as we go.
And obviously, in this lockdown, it looks like good news actually for the grocers and Tesco as we run up to Christmas. What are you planning and how are you adapting given the latest lockdown measures?
Yeah, look, I really hesitate to think about it or talk about it in terms of good news. I think this pandemic is a terrible thing that's affected all of us, and it's with every single one of us, both on a personal and professional level. So actually trying to put aside your own personal feelings and thoughts about it and focus on trying to make sure that you can operate to provide food and other essential products for customers when a lot of the market is shut down is really a key focus for us. We spend a lot of time understanding how to make sure that we get the key products through our supply chain, that we stock and keep available those throughout the supply chains, either through our own storage networks or through the suppliers, prioritizing ranges so that we can either temporarily or in some cases permanently remove products so that we can keep available all of the key items, looking at our trade plan to make sure we're not inadvertently driving extra trade when at the moment what customers are looking at is making sure that they can buy everything they need, and we're focusing hard on making sure that can happen, asking them not to buy more than they need, just focusing on what they need to do. And then, of course, making sure that we're supporting our colleagues and customers for it to be the safest possible shopping trip. So a lot of work there around what it means for our clinically extremely vulnerable customers and colleagues, what it means for making sure that we've got all of the right safety measures in stores, that we're managing social distancing, hygiene, cleanliness. So it's a real focus across the entire shopping trip, and it pretty much takes up most of our time at the moment.
Is there anything that's been permanently shelved as a result of COVID? I mean, we've seen some rationalization of the range, but of course you've been doing that for years. But is that likely to continue indefinitely? Is that a permanent, to use that phrase, reset downwards?
Yeah, that's a good question. You're right. I mean, you and I first talked many years ago when I was Chief Product Officer around what we were doing to reset our ranges, and we're always looking at optimizing range and making sure that we're able to adapt to trends and the way that customers want to shop and consume. So it's a never-ending piece of work. We're quite conscious and keen, though, that where we are reducing range, it's where we're moving away from where customers are consuming less and moving to where they're consuming more. So we've spent quite a lot of time focusing on having the right range and then building in new ranges that customers want. So plant-based is a great example of that. And we'll continue to focus on that. I have to say our suppliers have been fantastic over the course of the pandemic and continue to be so in terms of working closely together to make sure that we're helping them to produce and supply the key lines, and they're doing everything they can to make sure that we've got the products to be able to serve to customers. So, I'd really like to pay tribute to all of our supply partners who have done a fantastic job in very difficult circumstances themselves. I think one of the few silver linings in this horrible cloud has been the way that I think the general public has recognised the role of the food industry in during this pandemic. And certainly one of the things I've seen from my colleagues in stores is the pride that they have through being recognised and appreciated in the role that they're able to perform at the moment during the pandemic. And it's not always been the case, as you know, that people that work in the supermarket industry, it's never been something that people have talked about particularly positively. But during the pandemic, that has been the case. And if I had one wish once we're through this, it's that appreciation continues for the roles that people perform and the jobs that they do in our food industry. And the way that you're going to shine a light on further upstream into the food supply chain is great, because hopefully we'll see more coverage and more appreciation and recognition for those workers as well.
It's sort of the end of an era for Tesco. Dave Lewis has left. Charles Wilson is leaving early next year. Alan Stewart's going too. I mean, what's the key thing you've learned from working with those guys, and how are you going to, I don't want to say cope, but how will the future look like from a leadership perspective?
Yeah, well, it's been a pleasure and a privilege working with all of those, and I'll continue to enjoy working with Charles until February and Alan until April. Look, amazing leaders, all three of them, incredible lessons in leadership that I've learnt. I think Alan's work in reshaping our portfolio and strengthening our balance sheet has been incredible. Dave, quite simply, has been a brilliant leader for Tesco and led an amazing turnaround, and it's been a privilege working alongside him and for him. And Charles is unique. He's a complete one-off. He's got an amazing ability to keep things simple and focused. He's amazingly generous with his time, and he's a super person. So, yeah, going to miss them all, but you know, we're still focused on continuing doing what we were doing before in terms of taking Tesco into the next stage. Ken's just joined us. He's going through his induction at the moment. You know, he'll bring more to us, and we'll be able to go again. And for those of us that have been in the business a long time, 30 years this year for me, you know, it's
Wow.
great because it's been great the last 5 or 6 years. I'm really looking forward to the next number of years working with Ken, bringing his fresh perspective and new ideas into the business. So yeah, it's exciting times.